Tom Palmer. I am a member of the Florida Native Plant Society in Heartland chapter in Polk County. And today's talk is going to be about Lake Blue Scrub in Polk County. It's on the Winter Haven Ridge near Auburndale. And it's an interesting place that many of you may not have visited. So let's go ahead. Oops, sorry. Oops. Here we go. Anyway, it's a 78-acre site, two adjacent parcels. It's the northernmost part on this network of preserves that the state and the federal and local authorities have purchased along the Lake Wales and other ridges in Central Florida. It contains 11 listed plant species, 2 listed animal species, and it's surveys mostly by me over the past 15, 20 years, 200 plant species, 61 bird species, 56 butterfly species, 23 species of reptiles and amphibians, 10 species of mammals, and an awful lot of other things. I'm still finding stuff all the time. Okay. Anyway, here's what it looks like. It's changed. It's changed a lot over the years. This is kind of compared to pre-development aerial that I got with what it looks like today. It's in the middle of an industrial residential area, and that's been some challenge for management. Biggest problem we had initially when I first started working in the site in 2002, there's an awful lot of trash. You have to understand that in unincorporated Polk County, which means the areas outside the cities, there was no mandatory trash collection, residential trash collection until 1989, which means people either subscribed to a trash pickup or they did what they felt like doing. And sometimes that meant dumping it into the woods. And there's an awful lot of commercial dumping too. We first big cleanup we had, I think we filled 5 roll-offs with stuff. I mean, it's 150 tires, mattresses, transmissions, furniture, you name it, I found it out there over the years. But once the trash is cleared away, there's an awful lot of really cool plants out there. These are some of the listed plants. And oops, sorry. And here are some others. They're really, some of them weren't even on the FNA list, especially the orchids. And some other thing I'll get to later. And we did have a bunch of giant orchids, which is one of the plants listed, but some of the mechanical kind of put it into that. We may be able to get some from some restoration sites, but right now they're gone. I used to have one patch of about 25 of them in one spot, and it's just not there anymore. It's too bad. But there's some interesting wildlife here. This is sand skinks, is one of the federally listed species. We also have blue-tailed moleskinks out here. We've got this interesting beetle. It was previously undescribed. A retired professor was out collecting insects at night and found this beetle, took it home, couldn't figure out what it was, took it down to Archbold. They couldn't figure out what it was, sent it up to the University of Florida, and it turned out it was a previously undescribed species. And for all we know, Lake Blue Scrub is the entire world habitat for this species. It's a species, I'm told, that just lives in isolated islands. And so it's kind of a cool thing. And there's a lot of cool moths. This is one of the flower moths I found out there. And we got other interesting plants too. Indian pipes, found those initially in the North Tract back in the early, around 2002. But a few years ago, we had a wet winter and I found them in the other tract. I found probably about 40 of them. It was pretty amazing. I'd never seen so many lopsided Indian pipes. And we got, there's a small bayhead in one corner where we've got ferns and, the Habanero orchid and some other stuff, Virginia sweet spire. Then we got lopsided Indian grass, which is in blooming right now, as many of you know, and there's quite a bit of it on the site. Well, the site had not been managed at all. Of course, the only fires have been accidental fires from people, riding ATVs and setting it on fire. Or occasionally, they're I had one fire, it probably was from holiday fireworks, and I found one fire once, it was probably a small lightning fire, but there'd never been any, prescribed fire. So what they did in 2008, they gyro tracked mostly the north tract. You can see on the photo on the right. I mean, it was pretty, in fact, it was probably a little too much. I said something to them afterwards. And then they piled the debris up and burned it. And the actual fire occurred a couple of years later. But one of the things just before the fire discovered, meanwhile, there was effort to establish a population of scrub lupin. It's also known as McFarland's lupin in honor of a local botanist who was the first one that actually considered this a possible new species, but he never described it. But anyway, it's a really rare plant. It's been declining throughout its range, which is the Winter Haven and Mount Dora ridges. It's not a Lake Wales ridge species, never has been. And so working with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission in the Bach Tower, we picked a site for the first introduction in 2000. And just before that, while I was out looking for butterflies one day, I found some wild ones that apparently an old seed bank had been, given new life from all the mechanical disturbance. So a few plants came up from that, because within the historic range. That was why the site was chosen. Anyway, and so it was so the site was chosen and did a lot of planning. I can't remember how many seedlings, but one of the things that Bach figured out how to grow seedlings. Up until then, the prevailing management recovery strategy was, well, throw some seeds down, see what happens, or see if we can transplant something from another site. But that was about it. But Bach actually pioneered a technique where they could actually propagate the seeds and produce seedlings in their Endangered Species Plant Recovery Center, and were able to bring these for an outplanting. This was the first time as this has ever been done anywhere. And so they initially they did well. Lately, it's been kind of hit or miss. I mean, this year we had hundreds of seedlings and only a handful survive. This species has a notoriously poor survival record for seedlings. One scientist told me it's just a lucky lupin that gets to maturity. But we do have some going on, and they're doing more planting. In fact, last weekend we cleared some land for some more planting. So it's an ongoing experiment. No one's ever done this before. We don't know how this will turn out. No one does. But it's a very rare plant that's worth saving. And so we're doing what we can. The seedlings emerge usually in December, January period, and we monitor them. And anything can survive the May drought may have a chance of maturing, but not many survive this year. One of the highlights when I was learning about McFarland, the guy who namesake, I talked to John Beckner a lot, who actually knew him, and he came out to the site before he died to look at the lupins, because he's the one that actually did the formal description of the lupin in 1982. And so he was kind of interested. So someone drove him out, and he spent some time looking around the site. So it was kind of interesting to meet him. I talked to him on the phone many times, but it was nice. He was at Salve Botanical Gardens. Is what he did. Anyway, and this is a picture of some of the wild lupins that I found, and they also did bloom and produce seeds, and some of them have produced some seedlings, not a lot, and they haven't had a high survival rate either. One of the side issues I've had, unresolved issues I've had at Lake Blue Scrub, is getting it recognized as conservation land. It's surrounded by industrial and residential land, as I said. In fact, there was an old plan to extend a railroad spur into one of the part of the site, and it's still zoned for business park. And several years ago, I tried to advanced a proposal to get it recognized as conservation, but unfortunately, the Division of State Lands, which is in charge of what happens to these properties on behalf of the trustees, wouldn't go along with it. They thought there would be a chance to do some transfer development rights, even though there's nothing in both statutes to. I just think it's important to recognize conservation land. So if someone comes in around them, you kind of know what you're next to. Anyway, that's what I have, and I guess I'd entertain any questions if anyone has any. Yeah, hold on a second. We're waiting for the moderator to get back. But I'm done.
Yeah, okay.
Just to see if there's any questions. Anyway, we're just dealing with the issues. But it's been a kind of a cool work out there. Also, one thing I also added, I didn't know about this until after it happened, but between my efforts to clear all the trash and put in benches and do some other things out there, I got nominated kind of behind my back for what my wife calls the Geezer Award, which is the MetLife Older Americans Volunteer. And I got that in 2006. And what was good about that is it included money for the Ridge Rangers program, which is our volunteer program that works on this site and a bunch of other sites along the ridge. So it helped to further our program too, which was really great because we have some really great volunteers. I just want to put a plug in for the Ridge Ranger program. It was originally started by the Nature Conservancy and then taken over by the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission. And it's just a really great bunch of volunteers that help out. And we monitor exotics, monitor rare plants, remove trash, do whatever needs to be done, kind of help out.
Perez has a question. Is the site protected by any statute or laws or?
Well, it's protected by whatever regulations govern wildlife environmental areas. And by the way, this place is open to the public. You can visit this site. There's a couple walk-through entrances right off Hobbs Road. There's a sign there. So if right now the fireland's a little overgrown and you might get some sand spurs on your trousers, but it's open. And right now a lot of things are blooming. In fact, one thing you want to look more about what's going on there. I have a blog called Bear Grass and Rosemary. It's available at Lake Blue Scrub at blogspot.com that you can look at the history and photos and see what the place looks like and what it has looked like and what what's been going on out there over the years. So that's one thing. But yeah, it's protected. And of course, the sand skinks and the blue steel moleskink are fairly protected. So they're protected. But yeah, it's patrol. We've had some problem with over the years with people cutting the fences and had some minor vandalism. But basically, I think the place has been pretty well taken care of and not too much problem. We had some dirt bikers come in once, but I took care of that. So, and we had some palmetto berry thieves once, and I took care of that. So but it's mostly been uneventful. The place is pretty good shape. Yeah, sure. Yeah, this is Hobbs Road. It's in Auburndale. It's off of kind of go to Avenue Q and 42nd Street Northwest in Winter Haven. You'll see the southern track, and you go to Hobbs Road and take a right on there. We go and go a block. It's near the Polk County Health Department clinic in Auburndale. And it's between the railroad siding and First Avenue and Avenue Q on either side of Hobbs Road in Auburndale. So it's not too hard to find.
I think it'd be good if you discuss some of your citizen science work that you've done on site, how you got into that, and
Yeah. Someone was asking me about citizen science work. Yeah, one of the things I did when I first, after I got through moving all the couches and tires and stuff out of the woods, was I spent a year or so GPS and all the rare plants. So I established baseline data on the location and number of all the listed plants in there. In fact, that's how I discovered the orchids. I was looking for Britain's beargrass and discovered some tall plants that weren't Britain's beargrass, and there the orchids were. Did that. And after that, I did a 2-year sand skink board survey. After the hurricanes in 2004, there was an awful lot of plywood hanging around. And so I took a bunch of it home and cut it up into boards covered boards for sand skink surveys. And I did that, and also GPSed all that. And found some other cool thing. I found a peninsular mole skink, which is the red-tailed cousin of the blue-tailed mole skink on one of my boards a couple of times, and other stuff. But yeah, so I've got baseline data because, one of the questions you're asking in science a lot is, well, things didn't used to be, used to be more. And so you can answer that question by having baseline data so you can kind of compare. In fact, I've had some changes. Scrub blazing star is, for some reason, not as numerous as it once was. And I've read that it doesn't respond as well to other plants as to mechanical disturbance. But most of the other plants, other than the orchids, seem to be doing okay. Like I said, had one burn, and they burned a sandhill area on the north side of the North Tract a couple of years ago to give local firefighters some training, so that helped. They have not burned the South Tract. It's pretty overgrown, and it's got a whole different assemblage of plants. That's the only place I have a lot of rosemary, because there's not much rosemary. Actually, right now there's no rosemary in the North Tract. There was a little bit, but after they did the mechanical, it didn't recover. But yeah, it's a lot of, there's a lot of a lot of rosemary there. A lot of it's really tall because it's really overgrown. So some of it's 6 feet tall out there, and it's got a few plants. It doesn't have it's never been as open as the North Tract, so it doesn't have as much variety. But I go out there. I also have done some night surveys for that beetle, and also for moths and any other invertebrates, just trying to give a better picture of what's here, because it's even though it's in the middle of an urban area, in the middle of an industrial area, and the area has been really trashed. I mean, one of the neighbors told me it used to be a place where people stripped stolen cars. They take them out there, and so I mean, it's a much better place now than it used to be. It's just got an amazing amount of biodiversity for such a small place in an urban area. I mean, it's just been, and I'm finding new stuff all the time. I found another tiger beetle the other day. So I mean, just there's cool stuff everywhere here.
any advice for native plant study members who want to do what you've done on a property like this?
Well, this is something anybody can do. Um, I mean, you just need to adopt a site, because all these places are really needing volunteers. I mean, you can volunteer. There's all kinds of places to volunteer and do whatever needs to be done. Land managers are always appreciative of any help you can give, because it is they don't have the the time to do a lot of this stuff. So they really appreciate having volunteers. You can check with any local preserve. They're always looking for people to help out and do whatever you can do. I mean, not everybody can drag furniture and tires out of the woods. I understand that, but there's things you can do and ways you can participate. So you just ask your local land managers, what can I do to help you? They might have some ideas. So yeah, it'd be great. Because I tell you, the other thing about this is I have learned so much doing this project. I've been out there since 2002. I've learned so much. I've learned how to identify a lot of plants I didn't know how to identify before. I've come to appreciate land management. I got pretty good after a while of fixing barbed wire fences. So it's just a lot of skills you learn. So you have another question?
Yes. Pat Mantis would like to know what's the best time of year to visit?
Well, now's a good time because everything's blooming. I was out there yesterday poking around. The October flower is still blooming. The Baldwinia is blooming. The Carfefers is just starting to bloom. Liatris, some of it's already done, and some of it's mostly, I think, Tenifolia out there. But so yeah, there's a lot of stuff's blooming right now. So that's a good, spring. Yeah, spring, and the Lina is already bloomed. So spring is a better time for the Britain's beargrass and Curtis's milkweed. There's also some Bonamia still blooming, though it's, but yeah, and there's also, there was some milkweed, some tuberosa earlier, but it looks like saw the plants yesterday. It looked like they're kind of done for now. But yeah, and of course, lots of Indian grasses everywhere right now, so it's good. And there's also some blue-eyed grass. There's a scrub variety of blue-eyed grass that's blooming right now. So yeah, that's cool. And I did see one scrub blazing star yesterday. They're about, I think they're getting close to being done. But yeah, and there's a lot of other common stuff out there, and you just never know what you'll see. And it might be just a cool place just to walk around, explore, and see what you see. I mean, but yeah, now's a perfect, yeah. And by the way, this is native plant month too. So it's a good time to out there enjoy your native plants. And it's also Florida Greenways and Trails month. So it's a good time to go hiking.
So when you say spring, what time in spring?
Well, spring is, March, April. That's when you see a lot of stuff.
See the beargrass blooming then?
Yeah, I think you should, and into summer. But like I say, they're about done blooming right now. But we've actually had help with some restoration because there was some beargrass blooming out in the road right away outside the preserve. And so I alerted some people, and they did some plant rescues and used and transplanted over to some other preserves, so that can be perpetuated there. So yeah, plant rescues. Done some plant rescues on the outskirts of the site. That's been kind of useful.
So speaking of plant rescues, have you heard of the Pinellas County problem they're having with a site?
Oh, this is a site up by Dunedin.
Well, it's in, I don't know if it's by Dunedin, but the county was going to purchase it, but then they're not going to purchase it, and so Pinellas chapter is being asked.
I've heard something, but I think it's a scrub site up near Dunedin because most of the scrub in Pinellas County is on the north end of the county, I think.
Anyway, so they would like your advice on doing surveys. If you have any specific
Well, the first thing you'd have to have the permission of the property owner.
I think they're working on that.
Yeah, but that's the first thing you need. But then figure out, make sure you know what to do, and also you got to you need a nursery or a donor site or somewhere. You don't want to just collect plants and now what do we do? I mean, you have to have an overall plan. So, but yeah, first thing you got to do is work with the property owners and see what their feelings are, and just explain the limited scope of what you're trying to do. That we're just trying to rescue plants. We're not trying to, interfere with your plans or anything. We're just trying to, give the plans a new home somewhere. So that would be that's the first thing. I've been participated in some plant rescues that Juliet Rainier, the executive director of the Florida Native Plant Society, has organized on some sites, and it's been kind of cool. I mean, you feel like you're doing something useful. And we're working on some other sites that are in the path of development here in Polk County, but I don't want to talk about it because we haven't come to any agreement with the landowner yet. So let's see. All right,
Okay, so the specific question is, what resources are needed to do a plant survey and rescue? Like, how many people, other than this?
Do plant, rescues or just surveys?
They're asking about both.
Well, survey, when I did the surveys, I had a cheap GPS unit, and I just GPSed everything and wrote it all down on scrap pieces of paper and then put it together finally and furnished the data. I just walked through the back and forth through the site until I thought I'd covered everything. You just have to kind of work methodically, and your GPS points will tell you, to tell you that. Yeah, you just have to work methodically and just figure. And also, you got to figure out when stuff's blooming, where it's easy to, because there's some plants that you can only detect them at certain times of year, so you have to keep that in mind. Stuff's not up all the time, so you have to you have to be aware of, what they're, some are not only not flowering, they're not even present at certain times of year. So you have to, kind of keep that in mind. So you have to, figure out whatever it is. So, yeah.
This is a 44-acre site. How many?
78 acre.
78 acre. How many people do you think they need to do the plant survey and the plant?
Well, we've already done the plant survey there. I did the entire place.
Okay.
Yeah, I've already done. Yeah, this place has been surveyed, and now maybe time to do follow up. But yeah, I did the whole 78 acres by myself. Did the plants and the science kink and everything. That was a solo effort because there wasn't anybody else doing it. So, but yeah, doing it in a team would be great because you could probably cover more ground more quickly. But yeah, it's you just need to come up with a plan. What are you exactly going to do, and also and you need to share the results and have it, with land managers because it's something they need to know because a lot of times there's sparse data on some of these sites and frankly and another good way to share data too is on iNaturalist. Obviously they obscure, dangerous species and stuff, but that's another way to, right now there's a project, Edwin Bridges has launched for all the flora of Polk and Highlands County on managed lands on iNaturalist. So if you're have an iNaturalist account and you're out on these properties, you might look for, what sites haven't been well surveyed and get out there and do some. I've got a couple on my list to do that haven't had much visitation, and other sites have just been visited extensively. So just you need to, but look on there. That's another way to contribute. There's just all kinds of opportunities to do this stuff. Have any more questions coming up? No more questions. Okay. Well, thank you very much for tuning in. And I hope you get outdoors and enjoy nature. It's just wonderful out there.
We do it. One last question. Where does the name come from?
Lake Blue. There's a Lake Blue that's nearby. It's over probably about a couple hundred yards away. But this isn't actually on the lake, but it's near the lake. All right. Thank you.